Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Oh my gosh, we can do better than that. Good evening, everyone.
Hey, Glenis.
Yes, that's the energy I'm looking for. My name is Glenis Redmond. I am the Vice President of the Poetry Society of South Carolina. And I am happy that you all are here. We had a wonderful workshop this morning by our workshop leader, and it was great, much needed. I could go on, but I took notes in my journal to be continued. And I just wanted to say before I introduce our opener and our featured poet, happy first day of Women's History Month. Why do we have to do those things? We do have to do these now, especially in times like this. So I really want to thank you all. We're going to highlight that, but I also want to say a thank you to Tamara Miles, who is our president of the Poetry Society. So can we give a round of applause? And can I see who are my people who are on the board, who are work with the Poetry Society? Amy there behind the camera. She's going to go ahead and Ashley Crowd. Round of applause. And if you are not a member, yank, you can join for a small fee. We would love to have you. So consider, if you're looking for community, consider joining up. We have a lot to do. It wasn't until Tamara decided she wanted to do her initiative, which is poetry in Poetry Society in South Carolina, every corner, every county initiative, because it was mostly based in Charleston for 100 years. So now we're trying to spread it out, trying to diversify more folks to the table. We don't think DEI is a negative word.
Yeah. That's right.
Diversity, equity, and
inclusion.
All right, so we love that. So I just want to get a little shout out. I also want to give you a couple of dates. April 1st, we'll have our next poetry reading, and it will be Kristen Harvigston and also Brian Slusher, who is a local poet, teacher, lovely writer, who will be our opener. So come back for April 1st. There'll be a 4 o'clock workshop. There'll be a 6 o'clock reading just like today. Please bring others. You know, it's really good to do virtual stuff, but it's also great to do in live and in person. So we thank you for that. April 27th, the Poetry Society will be having a reading at the Greenville County Museum of Art. That is their Sunday at 2. So come out for that, spread the word, and you can find me on Instagram at Glenis Making Poetry Rain. REIGN.
Yes.
So before so I had something like just Glenis Redmond. That's my moniker, and the high school kids were like, Glenis Redmond, come on, you're cooler than that. And I was like, so I tried to be cool, but when you try to be cool, you're not cool. But anyway, before I bring Amy up, our opener, Amy. I'm going to share a poem if that's okay for Women's History Month, if y'all are okay with that. And if I say the name Harriet E. Wilson, does anybody know who Harriet E. Wilson? Oh, great. This is a little bit of education. Harriet E. Wilson was the first African-American novelist.
Oh, really?
Yes. And she was from New Hampshire. She was biracial. Her mother was white, her father was black. She was never enslaved, but she was in servitude. Her father died and her mother gave her to a white family. And I don't know if it was 9 or 10, it was around that age where she became a servant. And she wrote a book called Our Nig, because that's what she was called. So check that book out. Powerful. She was a writer. She was a businesswoman. She had she started a dye company for hair. And she was also clairvoyant. She was called an earnest colored clairvoyant. And I actually did a show with 2 university professors in Delaware about the 3 Harriets. And Harriet E. Wilson is one. Harriet Jacobs. Anybody heard of Harriet Jacobs? The enslaved woman who was hid in her attic for 7 years from her slave owner. From Edenton, North Carolina. And then the third Harriet is our most famous Harriet. We know who she is. Who is she?
Tubman.
All right, that was my girl. She looked just like my grandmother, okay? But I am focusing on Harriet Wilson, and this poem is called Sketch. Draw the face so we may stare at the rotten teeth truth. Give yourself a pristine mouth to say your piece through the crude doorway into a home on history's page, where you're not hemmed in at the margins. With a determined hand, right the wrong. Write it. Press your free hand upon parchment, spill ink like night clouds that clot what your soul cannot hold. Catch what history hurls. Double your fist in defiance. Unfurl your world into long lines. Get straight to the point. Pen every deed. Record the heavy dreams that woke you each morning. Press down. The paper can bear your weight. Make the page speak a back break, the quill quiver with nothing less than the meat of it. Whip the naked flesh of the past like you were slashed. Bleed deep. Gash history. Even if it must stand on hobbled legs. No begging or bowing. Stand in your place. Ink firm your existence out of the shadows. Make history one delivered letter at a time. Not as a slave, but not fully free either. Write it the best you can. Press your free hand upon your heart. Unbind your mind, no matter how your hand wavers. This is how perfect penmanship feels. One liberated turn after the other. Head the helm. Write your ending. Write the sky. Burning through fog, mist, and muck. Through your eyes, sketch a new horizon, pulled and drawn by your own hand. So for our opener is Amy Randall, who is a personal friend of mine. Amy and I, she said a decade ago, but we probably met way longer when
It's the 90s.
It's in the 90s, but please don't do the math. I had started the first poetry slam in Greenville, and Amy was there at the very, very beginning. So we go that far back, and then we connected when I came back to Greenville and started doing the poetry and poetry. Was it Peace Voices Poets? Peace Voices Poets, and she would be at the workshop and so earnest. I knew her as a photographer, but she was there doing her lesson, y'all. She was writing and always asking questions, and I'm just really so excited to how she's involved as an advocate for poetry in the community. I am going to read her bio, and then I'm going to ask her to come up. Amy Randall is a storyteller from the upstate South Carolina whose favorite mediums are photography and poetry. I love that alliteration. She has led poetry workshops at the Peace Center for the Performing Arts and is a founding member of the Upstate Poets, a monthly critique group. She has also helped expand Poetry Society of South Carolina's Every Corner, Every County initiative, bringing poetry events to the upstate for an organization historically rooted in Charleston. Her work has appeared in literary journals such as Emrys and Dodging the Rain. Outside of poetry, Amy owns Amy Randall Photography, which specializes in photographing people, places, and events. Beyond her artistic pursuits, Amy is passionate about community. She's a community advocate who believes in transformative power of literacy, education, and hope, which we need a lot of. She serves on the boards of the Rotary Club of Greenville and a Child's Haven. Amy has been married for 25 years to the love of her life, Chris, a visual artist. Together, they share their interests in creation, their 14-year-old daughter, Maggie, a budding creative in her own right, please welcome to the stage my friend and poetry advocate, Amy Randall.
Thank you, Glenis. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And I'm so happy that we have a room full of people on a Saturday night for poetry. These are my kind of nerds. So I brought 5 or 6 poems to read to you tonight. Most of my poems are really short, so this won't go on for days. I'm super grateful for April being here today. We had a wonderful workshop that was based around poetry and mental health. As an advocate for mental health and overcoming stigma, I'm very grateful for your message today. I'm also sometimes fearful to share my truth, but I'm among friends, so here we go. One thing that I would like to say about the craziness that is going on in the world today is I feel like
Don't mind the rats.
the ghosts have suddenly got started up. I feel like there's a couple different kinds of people in the world, and there's people who are in it for themselves, and there's got to be losers in order for them to be winners. And then there are those of us who know that we are all in this together. We're all in this together. Everybody, humanity. We all affect each other, and I am on a mission to bring a little hope and love back in the world because we got way too much hate. Way too much.
Yes.
So, speaking of hate, let me just start right off. So my husband, Glenis mentioned, I've been married for 25 years. He was raised by a man who was very hateful. It was his stepfather, so we are not blood related to the man, but I do carry his name. There is no Randall blood in my family, but my husband was adopted by a son of Confederate veterans who bore the last name Randall, and so I do too. This is the poem my father-in-law, my husband's stepfather, who we are not blood related to. I feel like there's some hope in this poem because my husband is not a horrible, hateful racist, though he was raised by one. And my husband calls this poem my I'm Glad Ralph is Dead poem. There are certain types of noise I'd rather avoid. No escaping a man in a leaf blower in pursuit of a flawless lawn. On the other side of backyard woods, a rebel son's gunfire reports. Somewhere in nowhere, Georgia, between cotton fields, you lie in a pine box, clothed in your costume, sewn together with hatred. Finally, silent. Had a little emotion in my eye, y'all. Don't mind me. So my other message of hope is I have a father who is 80 years old, and I feel like there's a lot of boomers in this world who do not think like I do. And although my mother and I are still on totally different pages, in his old age, my dad has become a pacifist. He has come from a conservative background, and when we first talked after the latest installation of power, I was afraid things might go off the rails, and I felt they were going in that way. And when I said to him, well, the problem is, it doesn't matter red or blue, they're all out screw the real Americans, right? It is not by the people, for the people. They are trying to make it by the rich, for the rich. And my father said, you're right. And I thought, wow, okay. So this poem was years in the making, and I finished it a couple years ago. My dad and I are in even a better place now than we used to be. But it's called My Father and Poetry. My father and poetry have never fit on the same page. It was Mom who had me memorize Kilmer's trees. Too many things about Dad I hate about me. The need to be right, always. Dark eyebrows that curl and twist like wild vines trying to escape the forehead. Scars from melanoma and other cancers whose names I forget. A blight in the mind that swings us from flying over treetops to drowning in puddles. But there are things to love. Spontaneity that can turn a random day before Thanksgiving into a trip to Disney World. Green eyes that don't miss a trick. a thirst to fill our cups from the pages of books. He sees me as blue, I see him as red. Together, we make my favorite color. And I was lucky enough to celebrate my 25th wedding anniversary last September in Scotland. I was also very fortunate in that I was in Scotland when Hurricane Helene came through this area. So, man, that was a hard thing to watch when my daughter was here and I was there, and it was a whole thing, but I'm super blessed in that she was safe and we don't have trees in our yard and it's all good. So, here's my Scotland and Hurricane Helene poem. Scots know rain, but they don't know Carolina rain. Whose lives are more drenched if the rain falls on more days but with less depth? Can you love a cathedral and hate the religion, yet believe in angels living in marble, floating above the glimmering stains of red and gold glass? If gray yields to a gilded sunset and you have no camera and your phone is dead, did it even happen? When you expect rain and the sun rises pink, lavender, and peach, can you call yourself lucky? If you can see mist through the street lamp along Northbridge, but not feel it on your skin, is it even raining? Can a hurricane break your heart as it washes away beloved mountain towns, bridges, trees, and roads, while you sit helpless on a train to Inverness? This is a poem I wrote a year ago, but it's really timely today, and I've always been afraid to share it publicly, but thanks to the encouragement of my friend Ashley, who's been trying to get me to share it for a year, I'm gonna do it today. The title is February 19th, 2024, 29,092 fatalities since the start of the war. If not now, then when will we see the man who holds the gun, then waves a white flag, again a deception, a plan? If not now, then when will lies end before the amen? Justifying this wicked clan who holds the gun, then rips a child from his den with blood on his hand. If not now, then when will peace rise again and genocide we ban? Who holds the gun then? If love breeds in men pride from a cold, dead hand, if not now, then when? Who holds the gun then? All right, this is my last political poem, and then I'm going to end on something a little bit different. So there is some important stuff going on in the state of South Carolina, y'all. Tuesday, they are going to be legislating about a ban on abortion. So, if you would please call your representatives. Tell them we oppose H 3927. This is my poem called No Exceptions. No exceptions. I realize tonight it's been 8 weeks. What if it isn't menopause? Blood drains from my cheeks. I realize tonight it's been 8 weeks. If there's a heart, it beats. My age, the dangers it could cause. I realize tonight, no exceptions after 6 weeks. What if it isn't menopause? And in these crazy times, I find that a walk around the lake at Furman is one of the best things for my soul. This week I was walking around the lake and I encountered this beautiful blue heron who, like, as I come around the curve, like, he's right there. Like, I mean, I could practically reach out and touch him. So I stopped, he was quiet, just kind of watched him eating and doing his thing, and he was so cool. He, like, thought he was about to take off, and he, like, belly flopped into the water and came up with some fish, and I'm, like, having this lovely moment, watching me eat dinner, and then these people came by and kind of disturbed the whole scene. But as I walked around the lake, he, like, kind of walked with me, this cool little strut, you know? And so I'm taking a class at Ollie, If anybody does not know about Ollie, here in Furman, the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, you think of it as classes for retired people, but there's no age restriction. Anybody can go. And so I've been taking this great poetry class, and although I had the wrong prompt, I thought my assignment was to write about something that I had just recently learned. So after my encounter with the heron, I said, I'm gonna go learn something else about herons. And so I discovered that herons, like all other birds, have hollow bones. So like a 3 or 4 foot tall heron only weighs 5 or 6 pounds. So I thought that was interesting. So this is my haiku that was inspired by my friend at the lake. Please help me hollow out my bones so I too can fly like a heron.
Beautiful, beautiful. Can we give Amy Randall another? It takes a lot to come up here and bare your soul in poetry. And I'm so glad that you have Ashley to encourage you to speak those poems aloud because they need to be spoken. It's beautiful, and it reminded me of what Emily Dickinson says. She says, tell the truth, but tell it slant. But I have a Glenis Redmond version of that. Tell the truth, but tell it whole. And that's what you have done, my dear friend. I'm glad you have told it whole.
Thank you.
Now for my new BFF. She doesn't know it. You did a great job today, and thank you for making the connection between mental health and poetry. I think we all need that at this point in our lives. And anywhere we can have a soft space and a safe space, you did that for us today. And may you continue to do the work that you do, and thank you for the noble work that you do. We see you and we honor you, and we thank you for coming today, coming down the mountain, being who you are. We have several mutual friends, Marcus Amaker and Evelyn Berry, all those folks I know. And so now our community is connected, so I hope we stay connected. I would love to read a more formal introduction because we like our guests to, we want to know all of what they've done. So she said I can call her April, but she is a doctor. Doctor, until her wife can say doctor. We're not going to get into all that, but it was very amusing to me. Like,
workshop stuff only.
Okay. Dr. April Bandy-Taylor, she, her, is a poet, playwright, and a professor of psychology at Warren Wilson College. She holds a master's degree in counseling, a master's degree in exercise science, and a PhD in psychology, which means, y'all, she is the bomb.
Means I have a lot of student loans.
May they all be forgiven.
Yes.
Yeah. Her research is rooted in social justice issues, including food insecurity and eating disorders in the LGBTQ plus a population. She is a firm believer in the healing power of poetry and enjoys spreading that message to others while sharing space, stories, and community. In her spare time, you will likely find her spending time with her wife. Round of applause.
22 years.
How
22 years.
22 years.
Oh,
You see, Amy, they coming for you. They coming for you. Okay. And 2 rescue pups and supporting local theater and trying out new vegan recipes. Will you please welcome to the stage Dr. April Bandy-Taylor.
I'm definitely keeping you as my amazing. So thank you so much for allowing me to come in and chat with you a little bit today. Thank you to the Poetry Society of South Carolina. It makes my heart feel good to come home. I'm from the Charleston area. Was born in Orangeburg, but lived in the Charleston area for, 25 plus years. So Charleston does very much feel like home. So it feels nice to be back in South Carolina, just a little bit up the mountain in Asheville, but will always be a South Carolina girl at heart. Yeah. So my eyes are older and in the dark I can't see. So.
Do you need more words?
Okay. Yeah. So for my first poem, speaking of home, I want to read a poem about home. Again, I love Charleston. It will always be home, but like many of you, I probably have complicated relationships with home, as do I. So when we were packing up 2 years ago to leave, to come move to Asheville, I drove past my grandparents' old house. They've been passed away for many years now, but I needed to say goodbye to that place. And my grandfather had these giant azalea bushes. He was so proud of them. And as I drove by and I turned the corner and I recognized the house, I looked and the azalea bushes were gone. And it was just, even now, it catches me. So I wrote this in kind of response to that. It's called Home. What does it mean to go back home? They cut down your azaleas, the ones you were so proud of every Easter. Everything that was once familiar was suddenly unrecognizable. How did this happen? We put down roots, steady, strong. But those 40-year-old roots cratered the ground, exposed the earth that has long been buried. For a moment, I lost my breath. What does it mean to go back home? I can close my eyes and remember fried chicken and sweet tea. Sounds of summer. But every time the humidity rises, who I am feels so different than who I was supposed to be. Oppressed by expectations of seersucker and sandals. We can call it nostalgia, but isn't that just another word for misremembering, for pretending? What does it mean to go back home? Home, I have learned, is not a place to go back to. Home is a place to create, to carry, and to fully be. Home is a journey to the top of a mountain to find the breath I lost, to replant, to grow new roots in a place of my own. So the next couple of pieces are really kind of more mental health poems. That is the space that I typically write in. That is the world that I live in. So I eat, breathe, and sleep pretty much mental health. If you were here for that workshop earlier and you got the wheel of emotions, my poor wife has to deal with that all the time. How are we feeling this morning? Can we pick a feeling? So a lot of my poems are kind of a response to that. This first one is called Legacy. I kind of cut my clinical teeth in an addiction space. I worked for an adolescent treatment facility that worked with teenage girls who were struggling with substance use. So this is a response to those folks. It's called Legacy. We are just tiny specks in the all-encompassing universe, trying to be known, to be noticed, to somehow leave a mark. But the irony is, most of us won't be remembered for great feats or grand adventures. We will be remembered by the people who loved us. In recovery, addiction will be none of those. Just an unannounced guest, an unsolicited visit with an overstayed welcome, an unrecognizable shell that chipped away at the pieces of a crumbling wall, a life we tried to create. In the end, all that really matters is love, and we are all worthy of that. As much as we may have tried to hang on to that demon more than anything or anyone else, it will never be satisfied. It will chew on us, leave us tattered, undigested, spit us out, until all that's left of our bodies disappears. Invisible to everything that once mattered, make us lie, cheat, steal, turn us into a chameleon, a reflection of our former selves in the mirror. The shape-shifting monster tells us we will never be good enough to make it without it. Take away all that is good, all that we once believed could be good about ourselves. Harden our hearts into dark gargoyles on an abandoned castle. But know this, you are worthy. You are worthy. You are worthy. The monster that tried to destroy you, it is not. Most of us won't be remembered for great feats or grand adventures. We will be remembered by the people we loved, the people who loved us. In recovery, addiction will be none of these. In the end, all that really matters is love. Addiction is not love, you are. So if you were here earlier for the workshop, you know that I played a little piece by Sierra DeMulder, who is one of my favorite spoken word poets. It was called Today Means Amen. If you have not heard that poem, I would highly encourage you to look it up on YouTube. It is incredibly powerful. And Sierra DeMulder wrote that poem in response to one of her own poems called Werewolf, where she was struggling immensely at that time with self-harm and some other mental health concerns. So I wrote this poem particularly in response to Today Means Amen. As kind of a way that maybe this is where Sierra came from to get to this space. So this is called Space. When you tell a child you're not good enough, the heart hears, don't love yourself. And with every beat, it gets louder. With every breath, stronger. Don't love yourself. Don't love yourself. Don't love yourself. It pounds in the chest, courses through the body, the veins, the lifeblood, the DNA, the genetic code, lined up like a solar system. You are all I know. Drowning in a black hole, the gravitational pull pulls me back, outcast from the solar system I am Pluto. Desperately seeking another galaxy, I search for what I know, for life, for answers, for you. It is all the same. In a past universe, I'm a planet aligned with Earth. With each orbit, I still hear you. Don't love yourself. Don't love yourself. Don't love yourself. And so I don't. So this next poem is a bit short, but I wrote it in response to a women's magazine. So I was getting my hair done, supposed to be having a relaxing spa day, feeling good about myself, having tea, just being relaxed. And I open up, does anybody know Skirt Magazine?
Yes. Yes.
So I open up Skirt Magazine because that's what's on the table in front of me, and I see, have yourself a very skinny Christmas. And I thought, well, that's not how I wanted to spend my day. So I wrote this just little short piece in response to that, called Women's Magazine. A Bible of shame. You must dress like me, talk like me, act like me, think like me. Mold, shape, and twist your body into me, fit between the pages of my spine, sparkle and shine, no airbrush, no filters. Write from the pages like holiday lights. Have yourself a very skinny Christmas. Happy birthday, Jesus. He would have had cake. So these next two poems, and again, if you were in the workshop earlier, you heard me talk a bit about this, but these are from a play that I wrote a piece for called Crazy Bitch. It was in Piccolo Spoleto in 2018. I'm very proud of it. It's still one of the coolest things that I've ever done. But we took this book, Voices from the Asylum, or Voices of the Asylum, I think, and it was basically the journals or the writings of these women who were incarcerated in asylums in the 18th century for things like hysteria, so very appropriate for women's history. And so we created this new character that was kind of a response to these other characters, and it was her journey through healing. So this poem is called, it's a list poem, How to Survive on the Psych Ward. Draw a picture and pretend it's your family. Accept blame where it is assigned, but call it responsibility to treatment. Keep your hands and feelings to yourself. Read the thought of the day. Let that be the only thought you have. Lead a process group. Leaders do more leading and less processing. Appear engaged in your treatment. Ask questions, but don't question. Swallow your pride along with your pills. Cry, but only the first day. Smile pretty at staff during 15-minute checks. Carry a journal to contain your anger and anything else that would be recognizable as the realm of human emotion. Draw another picture to show your progress in treatment. Always color inside the lines. So this next one, if thinking about the play, we focused on this character, Jane. So Jane was also committed to treatment, and we see the voices of all of these women from the past come and visit her. And so Jane, in the play that I wrote, is a soldier who has been assaulted by her commanding officer. And part of the treatment there is for her to do something called the empty chair technique. So basically you take a chair and you say whatever it is that you need to say to that person to express yourself. So this is Jane sounding off to her commanding officer. It's called empty chair. Sound off, 1, 2. Sound off, 3, 4. Sound off, 1, 2, 3, 4. The armor I wore never could have protected me from you. You were a predator, wild yet familiar. I trusted you, I believed you, now no one believes me. 2. There is a darkness that cuts so deep I can no longer tell morning from this nightmare. You are on every corner, in every face. I see you, I hear you, I feel you, I cannot escape you. 3. The punishment I have inflicted upon myself is far worse than any you will ever receive. I blame myself for doing nothing wrong, for doing nothing. Because that's just it. I didn't do anything. It's not my fault. 4, how many more are there just like me? My sisters, the fallen, the forgotten. Our truth is so much more powerful than your fist. A little sip of water after yelling my truth. Okay. The next couple poems are a little more political, just a response to the state of the world. Yeah, I think that's enough said. This one is called Southern White Privilege. And before I start that, I also want to acknowledge that despite the fact that I'm a part of a marginalized community, I'm part of the queer community, I also acknowledge that I sit in some privilege, right? So I'm a white woman, I'm an educated woman, and I think sitting in that privilege, I know that it is my responsibility to make my voice heard and to do something for those who have not yet found their voice. So this is Southern White Privilege. This is just kind of my response to the world. Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton. Look away, away, look away, Dixieland. Because that's what we do. We look away. Even as we hold up signs, Black Lives Matter, immigrants get the job done, we stand with you, Standing Rock, protect trans youth. But we look away because that's what we do. We can't see, we won't see, we don't see the Black, the brown, the queer, the trans, the immigrants, the people not like us, the melting pot of transparent light. We stir the pot. We are the problem. We are the solution. We are a revolution. But we look away. Look away, look away, Dixieland. So this next one I wrote quite a while ago in response to the Parkland shooting, but yet it continues to be relevant, and that is even more upsetting. It's called Dirty Hands. Come inside, little ones. It's time for dinner. Say goodnight to your friends until tomorrow. Send them on their way. Clothes stained with the red earth of the playground. Tag, you're it. Bang, bang. You're dead. Wash your clay-stained hands. Childhood innocence slips away as the red encircles the drain. Run and hide, little ones. This is not a game. Tag, you're it. Bang, bang, you're dead. Everyone is a target. Duck, duck, goose, duck, duck, mercy. Clothes stained with the lives of the classmates, the strangers, the heroes, the friends. Raise your voices, young ones. This is not a drill. March for your lives. I'm praying for you is just another way of saying, I'm sorry I didn't help you when I had the chance. It's time for change. Wash your hands, Mr. President. They're dirty. So this next one, ironically, I wrote several years ago before a certain administration, and I brought it back because it's happened again. So this one is called January, and I think it speaks for itself. The ball drops. Happy New Year! Hope swept away like confetti in Times Square. Resolutions stare into the face of reality. I stare into a sea of red hats. White goods disguised by smiling faces in suburban neighborhoods. Land of the free, depending on the color of your skin or what's between your legs. Day in and day out, I hear a sound, the voice of an angry bird. The echo of an eagle, the mirage of the mighty, powerful, but so small. Tweet, tweet, tweet. A tiny little bird drowning out the voice of a nation. My voice is not heard, and my votes did not count. Your votes did not count. All of her votes did not matter. For 4 years, I will refuse to wear red. I will scream. I will shout until my voice, our voices, drown out the bird. The red hats are swept away, and America does not hate again. Okay, let's get a little less political and more relaxed. I just have a couple more. I know I'm moving through these pretty quickly. This one I wrote about a year ago, I would say. as I was trying to figure out kind of where my life was going to take me and if my time was being used in an important manner, if I was making a difference. It's called TikTok, and not like the kids' TikTok. I'm not going to dance. I'll watch TikTok. I work with college students, so I'm used to the other TikTok. TikTok. The pages of our lives slip by and we barely even notice because how could we? We don't have time. We're too busy running, too busy searching, trying to find more time. But isn't that really all we have? All that we're given from the very beginning? Time. A life, a lifetime. An endless opportunity of moments stretching out before us, just waiting for us to notice. To stop for a second and breathe. Breathe. Because everything is all too important except for the things that are most important. And before we know it, life's pages have weathered, the sun is gone, and it's dark. TikTok. We don't get to choose when the light fades, but how we spend our lifetime of moments is all our own. We can choose to spend them running, to spend them searching, looking for the next opportunity, or we can slow down, take a good look around, and just breathe. Stand in the sun while it is still shining, because what and who truly matter have usually been beside us all along. TikTok. I know I'm wrapping up a little bit early, but I only have two more, and these are a little bit more fun ones for me. This next one is called Winding Road. I've been watching a lot of trash reality because I love trash reality. It is my I think therapeutic tool. If I can't write, I'm just going to watch something trashy on TV. And so I was inspired kind of by all of these reality shows where you're looking for love. Love is Blind or Love Island. We need to talk about
Okay, we'll talk.
So I was trying to kind of just write a sweet poem inspired by all of this love, or at least love for TV. This is called Winding Road. The curves of her denim hug her body like a winding road home. I know every turn by heart, every side street, every detour. I have lived in this city for 15 years. I could draw a map. But I still allow myself to get lost, consumed by desire. Wrapped in a sweet summer heat, rising from the concrete, I explore. Snapbacks, high tops down the denim road of garden. She is wisteria, a wild beauty invading every corner of my being, swallowing me whole. She is all-encompassing, a compass. Her roads lead in every direction, north, south, east, west, and yet I still find my way back home. To the curves of her body, to her. And speaking of her, this last poem I'm going to do is at my wife's request. I always thought it was silly. She loves it. So I'm going to read it because she loves it. And I have to say, I love a good local coffee shop. I support local. I love local. But I also love Starbucks. And I know that's
hard.
terrible.
It's
It
so
is.
hard.
It is.
It's so hard. I did have a chai latte all the way over here. I'm banning them, but it's hard.
It's hard. Shaking espresso just does it to me every time. So I did a lot of writing several years ago, and I did it a lot in Starbucks. It was just kind of my place to be, so I did a lot of writing. And so I wrote this poem, An Ode to Starbucks, as a joke, and read it to my wife. Now that is the only poem she listens to. So this is my Ode to Starbucks. Oh, Starbucks, you are an evil carpet giant, a shining beacon of caffeinated happiness conveniently located within a 500-yard radius, no matter my location. In the event my coffee barometer should ever fall outside of normal limits. I am welcomed into your cult, and my ethical dilemma of contributing to the enormity of you and your business practice dies as I sip my cup of overpriced deliciousness. For you see, we are in a relationship. I am an item on your menu, and you are on mine. Starbucks, you are my refuge, a safe space where I'm enveloped into the warmth of your dark roast when work weighs heavy on my mind. You are my quiet nook for some light reading and a macchiato on a rainy day. You are my seat in the sun, iced coffee and earphones blaring me through a Wednesday afternoon. You are my Friday evening hangout, flat white and flat broke. I love you, Starbucks. I will give you my bonus stars no matter how much you drain my wallet. But just this once, can you please pick up the check? Thank you all so much again for allowing me to share some space and community with you tonight. tonight. I appreciate everybody so much who came to the workshop and shared with me and were brave and vulnerable all at the same time. This means a lot to be in this community space again. I've missed it. I've missed home. So it is good to be back home with all of you. So thank you again. Thank you to the Poetry Society and everybody that's involved in bringing me here. I appreciate it so much, so much, so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Can we give another round? So I did say my BFF, right? Love is blind. Are you caught up?
I'm on episode 3.
So I will not do any spoiler. I will not do, because there's some things we need to talk about, okay? And I do that, like, I guess I was talking to folks about, like, so I do a deep dive in history. And you can't always be that close to it, because it will burn you when you're in it. And it's okay to escape as long as you come back. So thank you for taking us where you took us. I really appreciate it, and I do have a struggle with Starbucks. I am really like Bandy, but I went from an everyday habit to like once a month habit. So I'm doing better.
Yeah.
And I always tell my daughter, I gotta call you back. She's the one who's holding me accountable. I gotta call you back when to drive. Please give me my chai latte, no water, almond grande. So, but thank you for the real talk. Thank you for the poems. Thank you for your courageousness, and we appreciate that. These are hard times, and I think when one person speaks, like Maya Angelou talked about, you come as one, but you stand as 10,000. So it's important for us all to speak our truths in this time. We don't know, but we've never known y'all. All of our times have always been uncertain. So poetry is that sacred, soft place where we can go. We are a community. So I always say, when you have those little butterflies and you're like, I don't know if I should do these poems here or there, do the poems. Do them. Because that is our community and that is our lifeline. Again, I want to remind you, on April 1, we will have our reading here. On April 27th, we'll be at the Museum, Poetry Society of South Carolina. I want to thank Amy for stepping out on your, you did it! You were doing that! And I think the more you step out on that wire, you continue to step out on that wire. Because that is the job of the poet. The poet is not to come to make anybody feel comfortable, not even themselves. So in that uncomfortableness, we find our humanity. And you never know whose life you saved through a poem. From a former drug and alcohol abuse counselor to you, thank you for all that you've done. I want to close tonight, unless anybody has a question or a comment or anything. Yes?
For the good of the group, there is a website, poets.live, that advertises live poetry events in Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah.
So check out poets.live.
Yeah, those are our friends Joshua Blankenship and Mandy Blankenship. So yeah, check out poets.live. We are doing some wonderful things. Melody has
I want to say something that's a little heavy. I just had a friend text me that there's been a shooting at the shops at Greenville.
At the, where?
Shops at Greenridge.
That's my joint. Where was it? Any other
They
information?
said there's 1 dead, 2 injured. It was in front of Marshall.
That's where Marshall, Marshall's, you know, Marshall's, PetSmart, all that area.
But it just happened at 5 o'clock, so y'all just be thinking about.
Yeah, be
That's
thinking
close,
about,
that's
be aware.
too close. That's too close.
It's very close for comfort. You know, there's just a lot of we're being destabilized and a lot of, you know, it's just the world is quaking. I came here with a heavy heart because, probably a singer that most of you don't know, but Angie Stone, she died today. And so, I mean, there's just a lot. I just feel like it's just coming at us in so many ways. But so be mindful. I think it's fitting with the workshop that you did today with mental health and taking care of yourself, finding spaces where you can, act where you can, but also try to find your meaning in your world. I'm not going to preach to you. I'm not a preacher. I'm a poet. But I think poets and artists, we are ministers. And that work that you did today was ministering. So I'm glad you came down the mountain. I want to close this out with a poem that's my clarion call when I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia. I don't know, I mean, that's not good math, but I was trying to figure out how to leave the counseling field and what to do. And now living with cancer. My guru, poet mother, Lucille Clifton. And if you don't know Lucille Clifton, you need to find Lucille Clifton. I recommend the Book of Light or her collective works. And I just want to close this out tonight with a poem that got me off the couch and really realize that poetry is a mission. It's a calling, and there's a reason why it's in our heart, and there's a reason why we do what we do. But I had already asked the universe, like, what am I going to do with my life? I'm going to be sick the rest of my life. What am I going to do? And I turned on Bill Moyers, and it was the Dodge Poetry Festival. And this woman came out and said, won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, non-white and woman, what could I see to be but myself? I made it up. Here on this bridge, between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Won't you come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed.
That's right.
May you find whatever is trying to kill you, and may it fail over and over and over again. Thank you all for coming out tonight. Thank you. Oh, please mingle. Please share. We come together. This group will never ever happen again. This is the configuration of souls. So please, if you heard a line that changed your life, please let it be known. Share information. Don't be shy. We're here for a reason. Thank you.
And have some more food and drinks.
Yes.